Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where last episode was very awkward. There's no doubt about that. It was incredibly awkward, and the only thing I really have to say about it is that's not how aerodynamics works. But, you know, whatever. I want to go through and make sure that all of these chutes are armed at this point. Are repacked at this point. They should be. I believe I already got all of them, but I just want to double check them really quick here before we head back. It is very dark, apparently. Where is the sun right now? Ah, occluded by Jool. That'll do it. That will do it. So Jool is up over that way somewhere, but it's very hard to see because Jool is currently blocking the sun. Okay, well, we are back in orbit at this point, and from here it should be relatively smooth sailing to get done with this incredibly awkward mission. So from here, if we were to burn hypothetically about here or so, where is that maneuver node? No, not there. If we were to burn hypothetically here or so prograde, where would that put our resulting orbit? So that gives us an escape velocity right there, and that is definitely the wrong direction. Okay, so that is pushing us away from Kerbal, and we want to be heading towards Kerbal. So let's bring it around to this side then. And that is bringing us closer to Jool. Okay, this is going to be way too much. We don't actually want to do a burn like this. I'm just curious. What is this projecting the orbit to be doing? Okay, that is an escape velocity out of the Kerbin system. That is definitely not what we're angling for here, so we're going to have to go for something a little more modest. So to that end, we are going to drop that maneuver node. We're going to create a new maneuver plan here, and I just want to push this out of the Julian system, just barely. So just push it out something like this. Should be fine. And then we'll do an inclination change, which doesn't look to be too bad, considering we're in like a 45-degree inclination right now. That doesn't appear to be too bad. We can do our inclination change and a Hohmann transfer without any major issues in theory. Especially if we did our transfer from the periapsis here. Or thereabouts. Yeah, this should be reasonably fine. So 1024 delta V for this. Nice power of 2 there. I like it. Let's align for that burn. It is still quite dark right now. We can look at Lathe to kind of see what we've got going on here. But we're definitely in a Julian eclipse, so that is fine. I'm a little surprised that we got back to orbit with 6K delta V left, considering the rather extreme issues we had with aerodynamics lifting off of Lathe. But to be clear, our ELU mission should go a lot smoother than this, in theory. I'm pretty sure we're not going to have major issues with ELU. We definitely ran into a lot of bugs on Lathe. There's no doubt about that. We're going to warp forward a little bit here, and eventually we'll get some light back. Eventually. Okay, it is getting very dark indeed. Very dark. Also, the atmosphere is kind of confused. It's not quite sure what it's trying to do here. The atmospheric scattering is very confused. That's fine. We've got about 18 seconds until this burn. So 10, and I overshot it a little bit, but that's okay. And let's get this burn going. All we're looking to do is escape from Jool here, so not too significant. About 30 seconds left in this burn. And again, if we need to, at this point we can send a refueling mission to this. That's not a big deal. So yeah, we're just going to kind of slingshot around Jool here and just fling ourselves out of the system. So that is absolutely fine. We've got about 15 seconds left. I mean, it's not a great slingshot, but it's kind of what we're doing. Emphasis on kind of. About 10 seconds left in this burn in theory. I think this might be a little bit off. We'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, I think it's a couple seconds off. That's okay. 2, 1, in theory, time to shut off the engine. But in actuality, now it's time to shut off the engine. There we go. So that will do, and we are out of here. Goodbye, buggy lathe. We are leaving. Let's warp out of here, because I don't want to be at Lathe anymore. We've run into way too many issues. Beautiful. So we are out of there. I don't know where Lathe is now. We're in the Julian sphere of influence, so that is absolutely fine. I think it's just dark from this angle. And from here, we want to just warp out of the Julian sphere of influence. So we want to warp to here. Goodbye, Jool. It was not exactly a pleasure, to be honest. I can't say that that was a pleasure. So we need to set Kerbin as our target here. We need to get zoomed on in so that we can actually select Kerbin. There's a lot of things. That's fine. We're going to set Kerbin as our target. There we go. And now the question is, where's our ascending and descending node, and how much is that? Okay, so the ascending and descending node is basically at the periapsis, and it's 1.4 degrees. Okay. So let's create a maneuver plan here, and let's just go the other way. That is not very much dV to change our inclination. Okay, I like it. So something along the lines of that, 123 meters per second, that seems pretty good. Let's get our inclination changed, and then we're going to pretty much immediately be angling to come in for a Hohmann transfer. But this will be a good time to do this burn, so that's absolutely okay. This timing works out fairly well. I don't know where Kerbin will end up being, but we're in such a larger orbit, it doesn't really matter. We'll find an encounter quite easily when our orbits are this different. It won't necessarily be a tremendously efficient encounter, but it will be an encounter nonetheless. Cool, so over we head here. And we're going to get this inclination change done soon enough. That's only a 5-second burn. Insane. Also, these guys should be, like, moved into a new... Yeah, these guys should be moved into a new stage up here and moved up top. There we go. That'll do. So we've got about 4 hours until this burn. Let's continue to warp forward a little bit. Now about 3 minutes. 2 minutes, 1 minute, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and 3, 2, 1, mark. Gonna call that good. Okay, so that should be good on the inclination change. Now we're going to be looking for an encounter. We're slightly past the periapsis here, so that is understood. This is the fastest speed we're going to be going, and let's create a maneuver plan around here, although we could probably do it significantly earlier. And let's bring this right on into the Kerbin orbit and see where we are. Okay, so we're pretty much as off as we can be here. That's noted, but we can just simply delay this burn until about here. That gets us an encounter. It's not the most efficient encounter in the world, I'm sure. It's mediocre, but this is fine. We can definitely dial that in a little bit. Okay, this is crossing over Kerbin, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay, so where is our maneuver node? There it is. We can dial this in slightly this way and bring it down to somewhere like that, and then bring it back over here. Just drop it down to be... That's a little too far, actually. Just drop it to be something kind of like this. Down to somewhere around... That's an impact trajectory. Somewhere around here-ish. We'll dial it in. We're going to need a pretty hefty braking burn anyway, so this is fine. We'll call this good for now. We'll align to that burn. That'll be in 216 days. That seems fine. We're not going to nail it perfectly, but it'll be close-ish. Close-ish. So let's get into position for this burn. We've still got about 5 kilometers per second. Well, like 5.7. Or rather 4.7. And let's warp here. Perfect. And we're about 3 hours away. Let's warp a little further. About 2 minutes. Sounds good. And while we're continuing to warp here, I'm just going to be maneuvering over to having our view here. Not exactly here. More like here. Okay. This is our target orbit. We'll see how close we end up getting. I just want to have an encounter. That is the most important thing right now. So this is going to be 2 kilometers per second. That's fine. 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay. And we're decelerating. Excellent. So at this point, we can keep a bit of an eye on our current trajectory here. And we can see the apoapsis is flipping on around. Periapsis is coming in. We want the periapsis to be like right up over here. So that'll be absolutely fine. And you can see here, we're going to be coming in with a lot of speed. This is the speed that we're going to have, and that is not exactly what we want. That's why we're going to need to do a braking burn. But we've got lots of DV for this. We should be able to pull this off without any real problem. We could aerobrake as well. We'll see if that's necessary. I don't think it will be. I suspect that we've got the Delta V to pull this off. And if we don't, we can always refuel, but this would be an awkward orbit to refuel into. The good news is we are definitely going to have enough Delta V to change it somewhat. The question is by how much, and I think we'll get ourselves into Kerbin orbit for sure. Bare minimum. I think that we'll be absolutely fine here. In reality, I don't think we need to refuel. So we've got about 30 seconds left on this burn, and we're just continuing to bring it on down. Excellent. About another 20. I'm just going to warp us forward a little bit here. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. We just shot right through there. Noted. I'm going to flip us around to prograde. I'm going to get rid of this. And we're going to need to thrust limit. Thrust limiting this down to 1% thrust. Because it was... I think we were in system for 1 frame there. It was incredibly, incredibly short. No doubt about that. So over to Kerbin we head, and we're going to work on dialing this in a bit. Wow, it actually selected Kerbin? That's insane. Okay. So let's just bring this guy right on back. Okay, we're dropping that distance from target down. Very, very gently here. This may be a little too gently, but regardless, it does need to happen. Okay, so we now have an encounter. Let's just dial this in. We're down to 50,000 kilometers. 30,000. 20,000. 10,000 kilometers. Okay, let's move this a little bit slower. 1,000 kilometers. 400, 300, 200, 117 kilometers. I'll allow this. Unless we want to aerobrake. Now the question is, how much DV is it going to cost to drop this down further? I don't think it'll be that bad. It'll be kind of bad. We've got 2,600 though, so I think we should be okay. I think we don't have to aerobrake here. We absolutely could aerobrake, but I do not believe it to be currently necessary. So we should warp to about here, in theory. And here we come, slowly falling in. It's going to take a little while, but we will accelerate tremendously as we fall. As you can see, we are indeed accelerating. The real question is, what is our orbital velocity going to be at Kerbin? We've got 2,600 meters per second to brake with. Okay. So, in we come here. We want to warp to right here. This is like 12,000 meters per second orbital velocity. But what's it going to be in Kerbin here? Okay, this isn't bad. This is like 3,000 meters per second. This is not a big deal. So that seems fine. At the periapsis, we can create a maneuver plan here. Let's see what the braking here is going to look like. Okay. That's wild. What do we have going on here? We're running out of fuel. Okay. So if we're running out of fuel, that means that we are going to need to change this up a bit. Specifically, we're going to need to do a maneuver plan back over like here. With the question being, what is this periapsis going to look like? Oh, for one thing, a big part of the problem there was our thrust limiting. Where is our craft at? Hang on. We were apparently massively zoomed out from it. Okay, let's unthrust limit this engine. That will help matters a lot. So, let's hop in over here to Kerbin. There we go. And now the question is, let's get rid of this. If we were to do a burn here, that's more like what I expected to see. Okay. So we can see here that that's actually going to toss us... Oh, because of an encounter there. Yeah. Let's do something like this. So this is 1,300 meters per second, and if we bring this down to about... We can keep, like, 600 in stock. That's a periapsis of 87 kilometers. Yeah, this is very doable. This is much more doable now that we're actually having some thrust to weight. That does help. So I want to change the timing on this for sure to be a little bit closer to, well, here or so. And then let's bring that on back. That's decent, actually. Just place it about like this. That puts us down to 66 kilometers here. We can do that burn a little earlier, like so, and just do a re-entry. This seems really good, actually. And we still have enough to do a re-entry burn as well. Not that we'd need to at these speeds, but it's definitely doable. Okay, this sounds good. I think we've got a plan here. Let's align for that burn. And of course, Kerbin is currently down there. It's a ways away. We're going to have to warp on over. It will, of course, take us a while to get there. 1 day, apparently. 1 day, 1 hour, 33 minutes, and 51 seconds when I read that. Now it's a little sooner than that. So let's warp on in here, and we're going to build up a fair amount of speed here. There we go. We're currently about 3 minutes away here. Let's warp forward a little further. 2 minutes away. 1 minute away. 20 seconds. 10. And 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so we're just going to burn here until our periapsis is like 20 kilometers or so. That'll be absolutely fine. That's going to get rid of the vast majority of our speed here. And that should put us at just over orbital velocity, which should be absolutely A-okay. We have a heat shield in this thing, right? Yeah, we do. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to double check that. That could be awkward if we didn't have a heat shield. Okay, this bar isn't working accurately, but that's okay. We just know that we need to get our periapsis down to about 20 kilometers on this burn. So no problem whatsoever there. And we're just slowing down. We've already shaved off about 1 kilometer per second, over 1 kilometer per second, and that's looking wonderful. We're just about down to orbital velocity. Well, we're well over orbital velocity right now, but we need to shave off about another 500 meters per second for that. It's looking good. Periapsis is beginning to go down a little bit more quickly. That's noted. And we're now in a terminal orbit. Gonna call that good. So we've got 500 meters per second left, and we could do a re-entry burn with that. That is maybe not the worst idea in the world, but I kind of want to radial retrograde it instead. So somewhere around here, I'd like to pin open our periapsis. Somewhere around here, we would toss in some radial to twist this periapsis around, and then we would retrograde it until this is back to about 20 kilometers. It wouldn't require very much to do this, right? Actually, maybe like 10 kilometers. Yeah, this will be an absolutely fine re-entry burn. And from there, we'll throw away around 300 meters per second that we aren't going to need. That seems beautiful. No problem whatsoever there. Okay, let's just get into position for that re-entry. And we are going to be in the atmosphere, I think, when that burn starts. It's mostly going to be radial. Yeah, we're in atmosphere as of right now. We've got about 2 minutes until that burn starts. So we'll see how this ends up going. We may be forced to start the burn a little early. In fact, I'm doing it now. I'm doing the burn right now. So that'll be fine. The burn will be stopping in about, well, 0 seconds. Okay, let's take this over to retrograde. That looks good. We'll get rid of this guy. And we are also going to get rid of all of this. We do not need it. Although we could burn it off, there's no reason to do so. So I'm just going to ditch this and the 300 meters per second that... Ooh. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. But okay. Well, we're just going to slow down a bunch, and that is absolutely fine. There should be no problems here. I'm a little concerned about warping, though, because of this decoupler that is just kind of hanging out here. Not a big fan of that. We can definitely retract this ladder. And we're currently cruising along at, you know, about 2 kilometers per second. No problem whatsoever here. We're still 45 kilometers up. Let's see what happens if we warp forward. Seems okay. Is our ablator actually ablating? It is. Okay. So that's fine then. The ablator is actually exposed. Cool. 1900 meters per second. And 1800 meters per second. We are, of course, on a collision course. 1700 meters per second. 1600. Things are looking very, very swimmingly for us here. This is going extraordinarily well. A little too well for this mission, to be honest. It's weird that things are actually going well for once on this mission. That's very strange. I'm not used to this. Well, let's just proceed forward here, and the next mission should be much, much smoother. So we're currently down to about 400 meters per second, and that is looking fine. Let's just continue to drop this down for a ways. Our ground altitude is currently 14 kilometers up. So let's just drop until we're like 5 kilometers up. Currently 11. 9 kilometers up. 8. 7. 6. And coming out of warp here. 5 kilometers up. Chutes are out. Fantastic. We should be 100% completely safe here. Beautiful. Well, that mission was perhaps the jankiest thing ever done by anyone. It was incredibly janky, but we kind of managed it. Kind of. Emphasis on kind of. Also, that gives us some hope for an Eve landing on water. No doubt about it. that definitely gives us some hope on that. I'm going to turn the SAS off here. It's overcorrecting. And we're just going to let ourselves be pulled around by our chutes. That's fine. We're going to be gently wafting down to the surface for a little while here. We've got 800 meters to go. We're moving at 3 meters per second. It's going to take some time. But that is, of course, absolutely fine. We are back, and we don't have to deal with Lathe and its bugginess anymore. Good. That was a lot of bugs. That's not how terrain works, and also that's not how aerodynamics works. That's all I have to say about the Lathe mission. So, there's that. The next mission is going to be basically the same rocket out to Elu. That should go much, much more smoothly. In theory. But let's bring this guy right on down here. We've got about 400 meters to waft. We're still moving at about 3 meters per second. This seems fine. I'm just looking at the way that the shadows play on the parachutes clipping together. It's just kind of interesting to me. Like, almost hypnotizing. Mesmerizing. I don't know why. But it kind of is. Okay, well, that's enough of that. We are now 100 meters off of the ground. And let's just come out of warp as soon as we're a little closer. We're about 40 meters up right now. Let's exit warp. Cool. We'll just touch down here, nice and gently. Right on this rock. Perfect. So that'll be fine, and we'll recover this vessel. We'll head back to the KSC. So that gives us a lot of science, but we'll get even more because we need to go to mission control, and we need to finish this mission. Excellent. Indeed, it doesn't make sense at all. There shouldn't be megafauna in Lathe. Okay. So that's fine, but that gives us 2 additional missions. Activate a jet engine on Lathe. Okay, that's probably doable. And this is a sample survey of the strange fossil on Bop. Okay. That should be reasonably easy to do as well. That'll be the same rocket, so that's fine. I don't know how many more of these missions there are, but probably not that many. As far as this goes, we don't have to land on Lathe. We would just need to bring a jet engine to Lathe and activate it. So that could be an interesting thing to do for sure. We don't really care too much about how that goes. We just want to get the mission done. So, sure, that could work. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to work on knocking another one of these missions out. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.